Hello, my name's Chef Colin Roach, and in today's episode, we're going to be sharpening knives. To sharpen a knife, you only need two specific tools. You need a steel of some sort, and then you need a sharpening stone. With those two, you can make any knife sharp as possible. I'm going to go through it with you, show you how easy it is, maintain them at home, easy to do. Let's get started. Okay, so you have your knives at home, and you're wondering, are they sharp? And I've been at people's homes, especially my family's homes. I go there for the holidays and they ask me to cook, and I don't know which end of the knife is the blade end. See this one? It's dull, right? I don't know. I could probably chop with this end better. So I need to sharpen them. And I ask them if they've ever sharpened their knives, and they never have. So I'm going to show you how easy it is. But the first way, if you're not sure if your knife is sharp or not, you can do a couple of different tests. One of the easiest ones is to do a paper test. Just take a piece of paper and slice down it. It should slice that paper right in half. Obviously, this one is not doing it. That one's not cutting it either, so it's not catching. The other way is to do it with a tomato. And of course, you got to use the tomato. But if you're ever cutting a tomato and you have to saw a lot, or it's slipping off the tomato, or you got to start a little hole first and then put the knife in there to slice through the tomato, then you're squishing down on it, it's not sharp. So easy way to do that is to first, before it gets dull, is to use your steel. You're probably wondering what these are. They come with your kits a lot of times, or you may have bought one. There's different sizes. You can see this one's a lot longer. This one has a plastic handle. This has a wooden handle. They all have guards here as well. Some are even ceramic, or they even have ones that have diamond crusted. But what they're doing is to hone your knife. If you looked under this very, very carefully, there's grooves in it. There's little teeny lines or channels in it that you're going to swipe your knife down. They're also magnetized. So they get magnet to pick up some of the metal fragments. So I don't know if you can see this, but you can see this one lifts it up. So it's lifting this one right up because they're magnets. See? So they're magnetized. Now, to use these, use either one. What you're going to do is as you're using your knife, you want to hone it. And that's put it on this steel, or steel the knife, they'll call that, which is this rod. And what happens is, when you sharpen a knife, all the little teeny teeth that are under a microscope in here are all aligned. But as you start cutting and chopping, they get all kind of messed up. Right? But if before you get these dull and they get all flattened off, well, they're still all kind of messed up like that. If you put them on the steel and go up and down it, it takes those and puts them back in alignment. So if you can hone it now as you're chopping, or at least every couple days as you're working with your knives, you won't have to go to the stone, or at least as often. But sometimes those little teeth under there get flattened down, and now you have to actually grind off some metal to get those teeth to come back. And that's when you have to go to the stone. But I'm going to show you the steel first. Okay? What I would suggest, if you're not comfortable with it, is you start out by grounding the tip into a board, or onto a table, cutting board. And then you want to maintain a 20 degrees angle when you're doing this, on the stone as well as with the steel. The 20 degrees is because on this knife, on the blade here, there's the bevel. And that's where the actual knife comes to a point. So you don't want it too thin, because then it's fragile and it can break. You don't want it too thick. It's not going to be sharp. So what we like, Western knives, pretty much a 20 degrees angle. Some of the Japanese knives and stuff have a 15 degrees. They're a little bit more like scalpels, but we use a 20 degrees. So 20 degrees is about this much. I don't know if you can see that in there. But if you don't know, you don't want to get out your protractor and stuff, just start here. This is 90. Again, half of that's 45, and then half of that would be like 22. So then you're pretty close. So you can go here, 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 and that'll give you a pretty good idea. Now, we're just going to start up at the heel of the knife, going down to the tip, starting up the top of the steel, going down to the bottom. You want to do equal amounts on both sides. You could do, 3 and then 3, and we're sliding that down, honing that knife. Okay? If you get a little bit more comfortable with it, you can hold it like this, make sure nobody's around, and just do it this way. So again, heel to tip, heel to tip. Again, honing that blade, realigning all those little, teeny teeth on that blade. And then if you get very good, you can do it like they do in the restaurants. You've seen chefs on TV, they're always honing those. Just make sure your thumb is on this side of the guard, so if it does slip, it hits here, it doesn't hit your thumb. You don't want to keep it on the top part. And then you just do it this way. Again, maintaining 20 degrees, if you can see that. And this one's a little bit longer. If you have a longer knife, you can get longer ones too, which maybe a little bit more comfortable. And you can go ahead and hone that knife. You can feel under, and I can feel there's a little bit there, but I'm going to go to the stone anyway. Same thing if you had a utility knife, boning knife, fillet knife, do the same technique. And even with a little paring knife. Again, if you're not comfortable, do it this way. Take that down. But sometimes steel is not enough. It's got too dull, so we're going to have to go to the stone. Now you can put them on those grinders. I wouldn't suggest the ones like on the back of a can opener. Those aren't aligned and actually probably make them more dull. They do have some pretty good ones out there now that keep that 15 to 20 degrees angle. But be careful, because a lot of those grinding wheels take off too much of the metal. So I think by using a stone, you can control that a little bit more, whereas those wheels are going so fast, sometimes it takes off more than you need, but they are good. You can also look in your, phone book, internet, whatever, to find out a local place that sharpens knives, and you could probably get a knife like this for, under $10, and they would sharpen it for you. So you could do that route as well, but I'm going to show you how easy it is right now to use a stone. Okay, so I have a couple of different stones here called whetstones. You'll see these in hardware stores, Home Depot. You can buy them at knife stores. These usually have a fine side and a coarse side on them. You can see this one's a little bit more fine. And there's different grits, how coarse and how fine they are. In the commercial kitchen, we'll have what we call a tri-stone. It has actually 3 of these. It has fine, medium, and then really coarse. And we rotate those. Now, you usually have to use these with water or with oil, either or. They don't really go together, so you kind of got to pick one. So if you're going to use this with water, you would soak this and let it absorb as much water as you want. And then when you put it down and you're going to sharpen with it, you just put a little water on it. And again, that's to help cut back on the friction and help with the sharpening of it. Or you could use oil, which is what I prefer. Now, when you're going to use oil, you're not going to use vegetable oil, olive oil, anything like that, which some people would assume, well, working with food, why wouldn't we use the food grade? But that clogs up these little pores in here. So you want to use a machine grade oil. And they make specific oil. It's like a mineral oil for sharpening. You can use the mineral oil in that. I'm going to put that onto our stone and actually sharpen our knife. Now, if you're going to get one of these, you're going to want to make sure it's secure. So you could put it on a damp towel. And I just have paper towel here. You could put it on a dish rag. Just understand that you're going to get oil all over it, and you're not going to be able to wash it out because you're going to have metal fragments and oil. So just know that it's going to be an old rag. Or I would suggest you could use some paper towel and you can just throw it away because you don't want it to slip. Or you could get one of these little, guards for it here. And all you do is you place your stone into this, little bracket and then just tighten it up. And this has rubber on both sides of it. And so it provides you with these little rubber feed on it that prevents it from sliding as well. So either one, whatever you could use, they do sell these and they're pretty cheap, so they're good to have as well. Okay, I'm going to put this towel underneath it anyway, just to catch some of that oil. So I have some oil here. I'm going to start with the coarse side. I'm going to put that oil onto the stone. This one's really absorbing it. And then again, 20 degrees. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. You might see it towards you. I don't like that. Not because it's dangerous, it's going to cut me, because that oil then is going to get on my clothes. So I'd rather push it away from me. Though some people do it sideways, which is fine as well. Again, as long as you're maintaining that 20 degrees, 90, 45, 22 and a half, you're going to start at the heel and go to the tip, maintaining that each side. So you go this way, maybe 3, and maybe 3 this way, and keep doing this back and forth. You can hear that kind of grinding, almost like you're trying to take a little slice off of that stone, right? You see the oil coming off everywhere. Now, you don't want to just use the middle of the stone, because what will happen is you'll get a big dip in it. So you want to use the whole stone. So start in this corner, end in that corner. Start with your heel, end in your tip. Okay? Now, I prefer to go up and down with it, a little bit more control on it. So again, I'm going to start with my tip to my heel, start on this corner and go to that corner. Use this hand as a guide, and I just push it. And I'll go to this side. You almost want to listen to it. You'll hear it real coarse at the beginning. Then as you kind of go through it, it starts to get a little bit lighter. And then you've ground off most of those burrs. You can take a feel if you want. Just kind of push off to the side. Don't slice it this way. You'll cut yourself. But off to the side, and you'll know how much you need to do. Okay? Now, if you're going to do a boning knife or small knife like this, you can do the same way. Again, tip to heel. Cutting that off. If you're going to use a paring knife, you could still do that, but I choose to do little circles. I think it's easier and it's a smaller knife, so I'll just do circles this way. Again, 20 degrees, circles this way. Okay, when you get it to, that one's already pretty sharp. When you get it where you want it, we're going to go to the fine side on the other side of the stone. Again, these got different grits in them. They'll oftentimes say it right here on the box. You can see this one pops out. So it's different cores. This is a little bit larger one. I got this in Chinatown in Boston. So it's a combination sharpening stone. You see it has a lot more stone, and it's all one size. It's all coarse here. So you can get all different styles, get the one that works best for you. So for this one, I'm just going to change it over to the fine here. Switch it and put it on this side, tighten it back up, put some oil on it, and then we're going to do it on this fine side. A little more oil, take the knife and just rub that in. Okay, so now again, 20 degrees, tip to heel. You see this one's much finer. And I can actually feel the resistance, give way as it starts getting sharp. Again, you want to do it the same amount on each side because you don't want that bevel to go this way or this way. You want to keep it straight. So even on both sides, making that 20-degree V in the tip of your knife. That's great. Okay, now this one. And this paring knife is already really sharp, so I'm not going to need much there. A little more. Okay. And then the paring knife, let's do a couple of circles on it, but it's already, I could tell, it's very sharp. The blade is much thinner than on the French knife. Now, when we have it at that point, now then you got to be careful because you got to really wash these with hot water, soapy hot water, because not only is there oil on here, but there's microscopic metal fragments that came off from the blade. You don't want to go chopping with that and get that in your food, obviously. So, I would sharpen when you're not preparing food with the stone. It's okay to go to the steel when you're preparing food, but once you do the stone, do it outside of the meal period, and that's the safest way. You can do all your knives like on a Saturday afternoon, and then put it all away and clean them all up. So I'm going to wash these with soapy water, and then we're going to come back. I'm going to hone them a little bit. We're going to do the test on the paper and the tomato. Okay, so we've got our knives that have been on our sharpening stone, all sides, went from coarse, went to fine. Now we're ready to go. I've cleaned them up, hot soapy water, make sure there's no oil residue on here, any metal fragments. They're pretty sharp, but again, it's still a little rough. We want to hone those teeth back in order. So we'll take out our steel here, again, on the board, 20 degrees, up and down, or away from yourself, or down if you feel comfortable. Either way, we want to get that honed. When it feels good, we could use this steel. Doesn't really matter. And keeping 20 degrees. You don't want to go like that. That way you're going to dull your knife. Not this side. Keep that 20 degrees, just like we had on the stone. And then check it. Very sharp. I'll use another minute. Okay, and we got our big one here. So, we have these. Now, one of the things you want to do when these are sharp is to make sure when you store them, they're not all stuffed in a drawer, banging up, dulling those blades, right? So, try to keep them. They have plastic sleeves that can go over them. That helps with that. Or you can have one of those knife blocks, that come with the knives. You can put them in. Trouble with that is they don't always fit your knives. And if you put them away wet or with food on them, heaven forbid, bacteria can grow inside those blocks. One good thing is they have those metal magnetized strips that you can put onto your wall, and it hangs all the knives up. And if you don't have small kids around, that's a great way. So you can see your knives, keeps them away from each other, and you just pull it off the wall when you're ready to use it. But whatever way you do it, maybe wrap them, just keep them so they're not banging up. And then you always want to use a wooden cutting board or, a plastic one, PVC. Don't cut on the cabinet, on the countertop. Don't cut on a metal pan. All of that's just going to dull and take away all that work you just did. Where these ones, a little bit, more forgiving. And the way you can tell if it's not too hard is to just take the tip of your knife and just go down the board like that. If it makes a little scrape in it, then the board's okay. I don't like those ceramic ones, those glass cutting boards, too hard. So again, wood, PVC, plastic, something like that is good. And then also you're going to want to, just like we did with our sharpening stone, you're going to want to secure your board. So I have a wet paper towel or side towel underneath there so your board doesn't slide around when you're chopping and working. Okay, so let's see if we can get this paper to work. Okay, you listen. And I could probably use a little one. Now we got that one working, so we know that that's good. We can also use the tomato. See how it makes those nice slices in there? I can do my dices. Julienne's, dice them up really small. Nice and sharp, don't do a lot of pressure with it. The knife is working great. So that we know is a sharp knife, and it was easy. It takes 5 minutes or so. You can do it, like I said, do them all monthly on a Saturday, something like that. But just keep that steel around and use it often, and you won't have to go to the stones. Now, what happens when someone doesn't have a steel? You're in an emergency, a tough, spot, and you got to do it. This happens when I go to visit my family, my sisters, and I'm at their house, and I'm looking at their knives, and they're really dull. Well, in an emergency, you can use a ceramic coffee cup or even a plate. What you want to use is the unglazed part. See that white? Not the glaze where they put the paint and the smooth, but you're looking for that rough. So on the bottom of a plate or a coffee mug, look for that. Usually it's white because it hasn't been glazed. And in an emergency, you can use that to sharpen a knife, or at least hone it. Because remember, some knives are made ceramic, right? And some steels are made with ceramic. So it's a great way to sharpen it. And all you're going to have to do, again, is to put the thing here and 20 degrees. Pull the knife across that white part. And it's going to do the same thing as the steel or the stone. Not as good, but again, an emergency, again, across a plate or a cup. And it will be very, very helpful for you. And you can utilize that. And also remember, a sharp knife is your friend. A dull knife will cut you faster because it doesn't go where you want it to go. It rolls off. It actually bruises the items. You saw it earlier with the tomato coming off. It'll actually cut you. Sharp knife, less pressure, goes right where you want it to go. Okay, thanks for watching. Please tune in to see my other videos on how to select a good kitchen knife, a good quality knife. What do you look for in that? And also how to use a knife properly, how to hold it, how to do some of those common kitchen cuts, julienne brunoise, right? And if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.